what is going on with Grand Archive market? Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mark from SolarGames, and today we're going to discuss the current state of market of Grand Archive. I literally, every single time I make a video that says something like, hey, Grand Archive, Mercurial Heart's going up, market's going crazy, right? It gets crazier. So there's a couple things that's happening in the marketplace right now. Number one is there has been a buyout on a lot of different cards. So what I see is that there's a buyout on Divine Relics, so Quicksilver Grail, GCR. Well, GCR is already kind of expensive. That one's not really moving too much. But like Temporal Spectrometer, that card literally went from $10 or cheaper to right now I think it's around $50, right? Quicksilver Grail was around $10. Now this card is better, right? Like on the surface, it's a better card than what a lot of people think it is. But the thing about Quicksilver Grail was it was overprinted. There's tons of copies of it. So people didn't really have faith in it. So it was sitting around the $10 range for a long time. And guess what? That card is also, I think, around 50 now. So everything's kind of going up, right? And I have not checked Mercurial Heart, but I assume that card is also probably going to go up. Maybe it's around 30 something dollars now, but maybe it's going to hit 50 again also, right? And there's other cards like Backup Charger, I think, is one of the cards that people are buying out. Last I saw, there was up to $20, fell down to 10, and maybe coming back again. Because again, the card's good, right? It's another way to draw a card. So it's very close or similar to GCR. And also what you have left over after you draw the card is another like power cell, which kind of makes it almost like a Mercurial Heart. So it's kind of cool that it's like two cards in one, and it's not Divine Relic, so you can have a different relic, regalia, a different Divine Regalia along with the backup charger. Anyways, enough about the actual cards themselves, but other cards from Mercurial Hearts are going up, and I think in general the prices are settling to where they should be. But things like Ravishing Finale, I think last I saw the highest I saw was around $25. I think we're settling around $20 being the pretty much fair market value there. A lot of the regalia. So for those that don't know, right, Mercurial Heart, like I think the design team, dev team has been talking about cutting back on the amount of regalias in the set. So you don't really want to open booster boxes and have tons of repeat regalias because you only need one of those and you need 4 actual cards for your main deck, right? So for the play set anyway. So what's been happening is that as we go from sets to set to set to set to set to test to set, the number of regalias in the actual boxes have been decreasing, right? So I think I should do a count for Mercurial Heart, but I think it's around 3 to 5 regalias per box now, right? Whereas if you compare this to, say, FTC, right, Fractured Crown, you were getting, I think, around 5 to 8 regalia per box, which is quite high if you think about it, right? So that drastic decrease in regalias actually makes certain regalias more rare. The other part of it too is in Mercurial Heart, there's been kind of like more regalia. I have to double check, obviously, but the set is bigger than Fractured Crown. It's actually twice the size, and there are quite a few more regalia than Fractured Crown as well, which means things like the Shadow Dagger, right, the Umbra Dagger that's in the ultra rare slot. It's like $75 because it's really hard to hit a regalia in the UR slot now. It's not just equal to other main deck cards as well. So there's that. There's like I think of course that added with the popularity of Tristan has made that card even more expensive than it currently is, or what people think you should be paying for it. So that's the current state of Mercurial Heart. For a lot of my patrons that paid I think $70 a box at the pre-release price, you're looking pretty good. And next wave of my patrons are going to be able to get some more Mercurial Hearts for around 80 each. And this is because my logistics cost for the second wave has increased, and I have to ship a lot of boxes to me because I want to make sure we do it in one go and not have to do a bunch of like incremental shipments, etc. So that's going to be tough. Patrons, be patient. That those boxes are not here yet, but they will be here soon. So I do want to make sure people understand. If you're not a patron and you're interested in buying some Mercurial Heart on my second shipment, which should be here in, I think, by the end of June is my prediction here, feel free to sign up. $15 a month gives you shipping. I think, so that $15 a month, by the way, it has limited slots. I think I have 33 total. Some people join, some people leave. It's fine. I'm not a big, I don't really care. I'm not policing people who's joining, who's leaving. But if you join for the month, you want to buy a case, go for it. It covers shipping, we're good to go, right? And you want to, you're like, hey, you know what? I'm done buying from Mark. I want to like, stop Patreon, whatever. And that's the, you want to work with that hassle, whatever. That's fine too. Up to you. I'm not I'm not opposed to that. I'm not going to go after you because you became a patron for 1 month just to get cheap boxes. It's cool with me. Again, like I said before, a long time ago, for, all the card games, I just want people to play. I want to offer a good price for everybody. I want people to play, have cards available, or sometimes opening boxes because people enjoy that. That's what I want to do. It's not really about like earning a lot of money, because realistically, if I really want to earn a lot of money, I probably should be selling on TCG Player or just charging market price rather than charging like probably way below. I think Mercurial Heart currently right now is what, 95? And realistically, given the way that the market's kind of settling right now, I think it should be higher. Upcoming video, by the way, I'm going to kind of prove that to you. So I will use an $80 price, right, for comparison. And what we're going to do in that video is open a bunch of boxes and see whether we can actually hit our price or go below it, right? And just to show you that, like, is Mercurial Heart's EV actually worth the price of the box that you paid for? And we'll go figure that out. Anyways, that's the update on Mercurial Heart. But along with this buyout, I've seen actually pushes price on things like Alchemical Revolution and other sets too. Part of Alchemical Revolution too is that we're out of boxes, right? So Mercurial Heart, we've been out of boxes in US for a while. Alchemical Revolution, we're kind of out of boxes as well, right? Which means all the price of the sealed product has gone up, which also pushes the price of the singles. In addition to that, there's been more viable like champions. Like Nico right now apparently is super popular. I've seen some cool Nico builds. So of course, Magebane Lash, the $2 ultra rare Regalia weapon for Nico, is now going up, right? Because of course, like Nico is becoming popular. Nico has cards that, is viable for her. And so we're at the point where her weapon, of course, is going up because, hey, it's useful now, right? So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on too. I fully expect other cards in Alchemical Revolution to also go up. There's going to be some other cards that obviously are going to kind of fall down as the meta kind of shifts away from those archetypes. I think Lorraine, I've seen a little bit of that, where some of the Lorraine cards, not Pendragon, but things like Insol have been kind of dipping and not really coming back because there hasn't been decks for a while now that runs things like Insol that kind of is viable in the current like tier 0, tier 1 decks range. And tier 2, tier 3, maybe. The other surprising thing is all the Arasana cards are now going up as well because there's like viable Arasana. And how can I forget Sylvie? Sylvie right now in the meta looks really good. Now, is it top tier? No, right? I think there's still a lot of work. I think people are still figuring out Sylvie deck lists, but there's a lot of Sylvie potential now. And Sylvie with the whole slime like path build is really strong, right? There's a lot of cantripping in that deck where essentially if you play Sylvie and you play slimes, you can just kind of keep drawing. You're not really going to lose cards as you play cards. That's how it feels anyways, right? Now, you still have the problem with Sylvie where it's, all of her damage, all of her defensive options are kind of on board. There's very little, like little tricks and reactions type of things that she can play from hand. It's not that kind of deck, but that's also what Sylvie's known for, right? Playing these gigantic creatures that you kind of have to deal with it. And now they're just in slime form. And of course, if you play this Slime Sovereign, you play this, the Spirit of Slime, you can play all the slimes in the game, no element restrictions. That's pretty cool too. So I like the fact that currently with MRC release, right, Mercurial Heart, there's a lot of like metas out there that's very viable, right? And there's some of my friends locally have been messing around with a Gundam deck, right? So this is your robot automaton deck. It's just kind of cool, right? I actually personally think there is some sort of like wind or water Tony automaton deck where it's all about like building a gigantic army, buffing this army continuously, like, and just getting a gigantic army that you cannot deal with, and then over like you kind of overrun them through going wide on the board. I think that's possible. There of course are some new cards that can sweep the board, but there are also ways to kind of get around that. This is where water shines with respect to getting around things like sweepers. Anyways, if you want to push that, there's a late game option too for Tony. But I think all the champions are viable. There's a lot more curses viability too. So if you're a Deanna player, you want to either do self-curse, you want to do, cursing opponents. There's a lot more options there as well for you and other ranger options too. So I think, currently the game and the meta of, Grand Archive is in a really healthy state, and that's fully reflected by the market. People are buying all sorts of cards, not just like Lorraine decks or Rye decks or, Merlin decks like we've had for a while. So that's what I think about Grand Archive market right now. It's very healthy. And dude, even Dawn of Ash, I mean, it's crazy, but Dawn of Ash is still being like bought. There's a lot of singles from Dawn of Ash that's still being sold all the time. Dungeon guides, like I sell, like personally, I think I sell around like 3 to 5 dungeon guides a day still, right? It's consistently, a lot of people are still buying dungeon guides. I am actually almost out of dungeon guides. That's how crazy it is. I literally started with like hundreds of dungeon guides and I'm almost sold out. So once I sell out, I think, the price is going to go bump up again on dungeon guides, and we're going to have to open more products, I think, right? That's the only way to solve this problem. So that's not bad. That's a really good option, or that's a really good situation we're in. And also the game's growing, like new players, there's a ton of them. I went to a locals last Wednesday, and tell you what, like the locals, right? This locals used to have around 8 to 10 players on a Wednesday night. It had 26 show up, okay? And part of this is because, those recollection decks that Grand Archive released with MRC, they're competitive level decks. They're pretty good already by themselves out of the box. And so a lot of people felt like, hey, if I just bring that deck, very little work, right? They can have a very competitive game. And that's what they did. And a lot of people showed up. Tons of new players tried these new decks. But the general consensus at the locals too was, do you have cards? Because I need cards for playable like things. Like, so I traded away a bunch of like things like my Shadow Daggers, my Gloamspire Mantles, a bunch of the different robots that people needed. So yeah, a lot of the playable cards are very, very, very sought after right now. So I think, given the situation, I still think MRC is going to be very hot for another month or so, for sure. I think the booster box prices are probably going to be pretty stable. I do think they're a little bit high already, but once my supply comes in, I should be able to kind of like quickly distribute them out to patrons. People can start opening boxes, etc. And hopefully you hit your CSR, CUR, whatever you're looking for, or just playable cards that you really need to play the game. So there's that. Yeah, I'm really excited. Grand Archive is in a great spot right now. And that makes me, as a vendor, very, very happy, and a player of the game, and an enjoyer, and all these things. So I'm just excited seeing all these new players who are really excited about the game. It makes me really excited too. So that's going to do for me for today, for this video. Grand Archive, if you haven't tried the game, I highly recommend it. For all of those people who've watched this far, who are Magic players who never play Grand Archive, highly encourage you to give it a shot. I think the mechanics of Grand Archive is very similar to Magic. You will pick it up right away, and you'll see all the little intricacies of Grand Archive that's very similar to Magic, and I think you'll enjoy it. There's interactions, stack, etc. All those pieces are present in Grand Archive as they are in Magic. Okay, so give it a go and see how you feel. But otherwise, Mark, SolarGames, I'll see you guys next time. Stay classy.